Okay, we're going to go live already.
All
Hi,
right.
my name is Hetal Doshi, and I'm an organizational psychologist. And as part of a community building effort, which was proposed to me by one of my really good friends, she told me, Hetal, start focusing on the corporate world, make sure that you serve mankind and you support the ecosystem that might be suffering. And so, because of that, we started a Facebook group over about a month ago, which is called Mental Health at Work. Our main reason for being here is to be able to onboard experts, thought leaders, and everyday heroes just like you and I, to be able to talk about mental health and its impact at work. And today with me, I'm super, super lucky to have Rei Na. Rei Na is also a friend of my sister's, whom I've known or who I may have last met 20 years ago. Which is one of the most amazing things about this whole COVID-19 experience. I'll just share a little bit about Rei Na before I get Rei Na to share about herself as well. Rei Na sits on the board of directors for Workability International, and her primary purpose of what she's doing is to really, her hope is to make everyone rethink about the definition of disability. Reina's also started out her career in the financial services industry and then decided that maybe it was time for a switch. And boy, did she make a huge switch. So, Reina, without further ado, maybe just tell us a little bit about who you are and how did you make this switch?
Sure. Thank you for the introduction, Hato, and it's so nice to reconnect after so many years. So, as I was sharing earlier, was a typical Singaporean girl who was, told by the parents to study what is useful, what's practical, and I did my degree in business admin, majoring in finance, and my first job was in a bank. Didn't hate it, didn't like it. Second job was in another bank, hated it, didn't like it. And then by the third job, I knew that I really hated my job or like what I was doing, right? And
Yeah,
it came to a point where like it's like just like every day the same thing.
yeah.
You just feel very little meaning in your life doing the same thing, and with an outcome that you don't see the outcome being one that serves a greater good for people.
Right.
In fact, I was surrounded by so many people who I felt were very selfish, in a sense that they would really pursue profits above anything else. It's like growth at all costs.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah. And I think as someone who was very young and impressionable back then, I couldn't handle some of the dynamics of such personalities. So a moment of realization came when I got to know a bunch of blind masseuses who were providing massage services in the financial district. And by talking to them, they were so like happy, simple people, and it was just so interesting talking to them. And like there's this group of them coming down to the financial district every day, taking the MRT, taking the bus, and like surrounded with black suits of
Ah,
gloomy
wow.
faces. Yeah. But they are so happy, but the people around them who are obviously like probably more well off and all that, they were so unhappy. And I told myself, I don't want to spend the next 10, 20, 30 years of my life and ending up like one of the black suits, but looking so unhappy, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I made that switch. Yeah.
That's amazing, Reina. Congratulations. It's really not an easy thing. Like you say, being Singaporean, right? Like we already are indoctrinated that our life needs to look like a very beautiful piece of picture. There must not be any kind of extra colors that go outside of whatever is drawn. And there you
Mm,
were, just went one fine day for a massage,
mm,
met a couple of blind masseuses and decided that you're not going to spend a day more of your life in any kind of misery or in
yeah,
a career that is not meaningful for you at all.
yeah.
And so a couple of blind people, blind masseuses, changed your life. And ever since you've dedicated your life to people
Mm.
of disabilities or working with people of disabilities. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I think the key thing that really struck me back then was I found out from a lot of them that they became blind halfway in their life, right? And it was a huge shock for them, a huge adjustments that they have to make. But you'd be surprised that the rate of adulthood blindness in Singapore is rather high because of various reasons, like even like diabetes, even like glaucoma that goes undetected, and so on
Mm.
and so forth. We also had like a few of such people who lost their sight because of an operation that went wrong. I mean, there are
Right.
just so many, yeah, so many things that could happen to you. And what really got me thinking was that, can these people still work? You know,
Mm.
and what work can they do? And beyond just bringing home the bacon, we're also looking at work as a means of self worth. Um,
Mm.
and making sure that they don't spiral down into a downward like depression. And a lot of them actually who cannot come out of accepting the fact that they have become a person with disability, they go into a downward spiral of self-destruction. Yeah.
Wow.
So that got me started in this whole journey of using what I think that I am pretty good at, like as in like innately, that my skill is in setting up businesses, negotiating with people, structuring projects, and things like that, right?
Right.
And how can I use my skill to then find work or make work possible for this group of individuals? So that's how my journey started with the blind community, and then I moved on to the persons with intellectual disability. So we
Right.
have yeah, people with Down syndrome, um, autism, global delays, and basically anyone who you think that you wouldn't want to give a job to typically, right? I wanted to fight that stigma. Yeah.
Look at Reina sounding like a complete fighter. She's like, I want to fight that stigma. So you've got like your mic over here. You look like you're ready to go give a punch.
No,
And
no, no, I'm
who
very
are
peace loving.
you? I mean, you obviously have some people in mind, right? Like as you have all this passion, and I can
Mm,
feel it in you when you're talking that you are angry with some people, that there are people that you are fighting. Who are the people that you're fighting? Of course, without mentioning names, but who are these people who you
mm,
have to fight on a day-to-day basis just so people of disabilities and people who grew into maybe having disabilities can
mm,
then have what I love about what you say the most is can then have this sense of self-worth.
yeah. So I would say that okay, let me put this into the right context, right? So, on a day-to-day basis, I work with a lot of potential employers, right? And some are really good-hearted people with good intention, with true intentions of wanting to help the community. But I've also met people who are not as pure-hearted as they seem to be, and those sort of people are the people that I like, you can really just see through the act that they just want to either hire people with disabilities as a marketing campaign. They use it as a front so that they look good.
Mm,
And then like, yeah, or they want to just do it because they want to get something back from you, and then
mm,
after that they will just like cut off the employment of the of my client, right? So it's really about how genuine people are in really wanting to create an inclusive society. Are you just doing it because of some other reasons, or
right.
are you like genuinely like trying to help these people? So
Mm,
that's the thing that kind of like all of us, not just me, all of us who are in this sector, we struggle with that, and it really irks us when we see somebody go up to receive like President's Award or whatever in like supporting people with disabilities, but back end that it's just rubbish lah. So oops, sorry, but
ah.
yeah.
But I think
Mm,
what I think is the best part about this is that you're actually super passionate about it, that you're willing to call it out. You know, it's not you can I can see that this is not a job for you. This is something that you're really obviously literally fighting for. How does it happen, right? Like, okay, so you see these group of blind masseuse, you get inspired, you then quit your
mm,
job, and then what
mm.
happens? So, so you go on
I
job
did
street.
next.
Do you go on job
No.
street looking for a job? Like, what do you do? How do you know? Because you probably before this have no idea at all
Mm,
what
mm.
this sector, as you have said, it's
Yep.
a sector, right? What is the sector
Yes.
about? You probably have no clue before this. So what did you
Yes.
do? What did you do?
Yeah. So obviously I didn't go to Job Street because at that time, this was 2000 and I cannot remember exactly now, but it's about 2006 or so. In Singapore, the idea of social enterprises and social enterprises that provide employment to
Yeah.
persons with significant disabilities, adding to that, was something very, very new and almost unheard of, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And the traditional model for creating employment or engagement, it's not even real employment, but just work engagement for
Mm.
such people, is to just provide sheltered workshops or like small little projects that really don't pay you much. Okay, so
Yeah.
that was the model. Yeah. And I felt that no, something is wrong. It's like if you understand economics, you'll realize that money can be created, value can be created, okay, but it's a matter of how much of the value that you have created goes back to that person in fair wages, right?
Mm.
And if you study some of the models that were running out there, the reason why it never took off in Singapore is because the proportion of the value that's created, a large part of it goes to rent, or it goes to other overheads that just is not directly back to the person with disability. And that is why it is very difficult for a lot of social entrepreneurs to overcome that and provide long-term stable employment to someone with a disability. Okay,
I see.
so yeah. So back then when I quit my job, and then I was younger back then and I didn't have any commitments and financial commitments. So I actually played around with the idea of setting up a business to employ these people eventually. So it is a train and place model. You train the person for the job, and then you place the person in employment, and
Mm.
that's it. And I'm very open. I would say that 10% of the profits are retained
Yeah.
for further building of the business and all that. And eventually I don't need to draw a salary from it. Preferably this business should become like a co-op model where it is owned by persons with disabilities, so they are the co-op owners. So that was the model that I
Right.
dreamt about, right? But to be honest, it didn't quite work out, right? There were
Mm.
many reasons for it. I think one thing is that it is not easy to have, say, all your staff as persons with disabilities, persons with significant disabilities. And that was the mistake I made because I went straight for the group that is the most challenging in that sense, and that a lot of associations don't even want to take them in as clients, right? And I felt that no, these are the people that I really want to help, because why do I want to help someone who, pardon me, but let's say he's hearing impaired, but besides that, very very able-bodied, right? These people don't need me. Don't need my help. They can look for jobs anywhere, anytime. It's much easier for them. But nobody wants to take someone who is blind plus with Down syndrome,
Right.
for
Right.
instance, right? So I
Yeah.
was going for that profile, and that was the part where I think that I
Look at Reina.
miscalculated.
Reina is just going for the jugular. She's like, this is tough. Let me take the toughest of it all. Go for
I
jugular.
Yeah, young and foolish, honestly, and idealistic, right? And I didn't have
Yeah.
enough people to support, because to actually work well with this group, you not only need to have a disability trained professional, you need to have good psychologists, you need to have good social workers, you need to have good occupational therapists as well. Yeah, and I didn't
Oh,
have any of those. I was like all of that rolled into one, and I couldn't
mm.
handle. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
couldn't handle. So
Right.
so after less than 2 years, I stopped. I scrapped the project, but I didn't. I didn't manage to provide long-term stable employment to any of the clients or people that I work with. But I
Mm.
managed to find jobs for some of them
Okay. Well,
else.
congratulations. At least there's some.
Yeah,
There's,
some, yes, correct. Yeah, I
yeah.
just I just like, whatever lah, okay lah. You learn this in my cafe, right? Okay, I'll put you up to somewhere else. And luckily, they managed to hold their jobs like really for quite long. Some of them like close to 8 years, 9 years,
Ah,
um, which is amazing. And to me, I just need to know that even if I just help like 5 people, it's better than zero, right?
right.
And yeah, so that's how my journey started.
Fantastic.
After Yeah, I just after that I decided not to do it on my own like an entrepreneur kind of model, but that I would join associations or BWOs, NGOs, if you can
Okay.
call them, Yeah, and do the same, but in that organizational setting.
Yeah, yeah. I guess you need a lot of resources to support you for that as well, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And
exactly.
so what are three things maybe that people abled people, although I really don't think I'm so abled, but as we were talking, right? When you use the word disability, um, there's so many things that come to mind about me being disabled in my own ways as well, but we'll talk
Yep.
about that in a while. What are three biggest misconceptions that maybe people have about persons or people of disabilities?
Mm, yeah, I think the first thing is that they assume that all persons with disabilities are the same, right? Same meaning that I can lump you up into one basket and you're all the same. Um, to be frank, they are all of them are very, very different. So,
How in
which
the world do people think that they're all the same? Didn't we have a realization that all humans are different anyway?
No, I think yeah, that's the funny thing, right? But if you dig into like if you look at government policies pertaining to disability or company policies pertaining to disability, you will realize that the people who plan these policies and programs, they took an approach where they just assume all of them to be the same.
One bucket. Okay. All
One
right.
bucket, right? But the fact of the matter is, they are all very, very different in their needs. They are very different in terms of the type of disability. They are also very different as to when they acquired the disability. Were they born with it, or did it come halfway in adult life, or so on? And the other one that I also want to touch on is on mental health.
Yeah.
In Singapore, we don't recognize mental health as a disability. But in countries like Hong Kong and in Japan, and as well as a lot of countries in Europe, they do classify mental health problems as a form of disability.
Mm.
So when you actually take that approach, people will start to understand it in a different manner. The funding going to these services and programs supporting people with mental health issues would also be very different. And even in the mental health bucket, they're also different,
Mm.
right? Yeah.
Of course.
So yeah, and your intervention would be different. Your support would be different. And
Mm.
so I know some people would say, because I was in the ministry before, and I also asked them, say, hey, where is the you have this strategic map, right, of the Singapore's Ministry of then what we call Community Development, Youth and Sports, where basically lump up all the social, family, and whatever poverty related programs in this ministry. And in the strategic map, it's very interesting because I I didn't find disability in the strategic map. Like, what are we doing for people with disabilities? It was not in the strategic map. And when I asked my boss, I said, "Hey, where is the disability program or profile in the strat map?" And she goes like, "It's not there." I said, "Why?" She said, "Too small. Too small as a population to make any impact. And it's a black hole." I said, "What do you mean by it's a black hole?" And the person said, "It's a black hole because you keep throwing money in there, nothing comes out of it. There are no results that come out from it." Yeah. So it's shocking. It was a shock to me. And 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 I also fought that lah, right? And then I said, no, I think you don't understand disability, and that's why you think that it shouldn't be in the strat map, and that is wrong, right? And also, you cannot think that all disabilities are the same, where you think that they are a black hole. I mean, to be honest, there are some very, very severe and profound types of disabilities where it's more of the state supporting the person. And there is very little that you can get out of that person. It is true, there are some who are like that, but a lot of them are not like that, you
Mm.
see? Mm.
And what would you say is the percentage then?
Of what?
Those who are state dependent versus those who can be more or less independent of sorts.
Yes, I would
What is
say
the
that
percentage that you? Yeah.
the, the percentage is just my rough gauge, but in terms of the entirely state dependent ones, it is less than 10%.
Mm.
Less than 10%, yeah, but very severe, like on life support, that sort of profile. Okay. Then those in between, where some support is needed, is 90%. Sorry, see, I've got my math wrong. 80%.
Mm.
And those who can be pretty much independent will be 10%. That's why I think it's like a bell curve, sort of thing.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so 80% have the potential to be working. Should they have some support, they would be okay to be able to work. And
I think so.
what is the total population of persons with disabilities in Singapore, if you
Mm.
have a percentage at all, Reina?
Yeah. So worldwide, in Singapore, by the way, there is no census on the number of persons with disabilities, and I'll tell you why in a while. But the estimate is about 12% of the population.
That's
Mm.
a lot.
It's a lot, but it's also not surprising because it includes people with acquired disabilities, so via accidents and as well as old age, like
Right,
lifestyle diseases. Yep.
right.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm just asking that question because I want to know how much of a black hole we have, apparently, how much of a black hole exists. So if you're talking about 12% of your population is a black hole,
Yeah.
mm, yeah, I don't think that's a very smart way to be
No.
operating. Both of us are probably going to
No.
get a lot of trouble for talking about this, but that's fine.
Oh, but then
Okay,
just to clarify, this was back in like more than 15 years ago or around there. But ever since then, Singapore took a very active approach in looking at disabilities and doing a lot of stuff. So just to put it in context, it was just back then that it was
right.
not around. Yeah.
Understand.
Mm.
And so, so there are three. I guess there are a couple of things that people don't get right. Number one, what you're saying is that there's an assumption that all people of disability or all persons of disabilities fall into one bucket. That's number one. Number
Yes.
two, there is
Number
this
two.
assumption that, well, there is a misunderstanding that mental health fits nowhere.
Yeah.
So I don't. I mean, I wonder, does it fit under persons of disabilities today, or does it still not?
In Singapore, it's not. I'm not sure about Malaysia. I think in Malaysia, do you know? They are not considered a disability too, right? If they have mental health.
Not in Malaysia yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, not in
So
Malaysia
the
yet.
same. Mm, yeah.
Yeah. So intellectual disabilities is considered a
Mm,
disability.
yeah.
Physical disability is considered a disability, but
Yes.
psycho emotional is not.
No, in Singapore, it's not.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
All right. So
Mm,
that's
mm,
obviously super interesting. But unfortunately, or fortunately, the stats for mental health can change very quickly because sometimes you're not doing well, other times you can come out of it as well. So,
mm.
what frustrates you the most, Reina? What brings out the gangster in you, apart from people who, are utilizing this for commercial reasons or marketing reasons? What else
Right.
frustrates you, or what else frustrates people of disabilities with regards to the self worth, the meaning, and the value that they can bring to this commercial world?
Mm. Um, so I think that maybe coming from their perspective and not so much my perspective, I think from a person with a disability, right, the thing that annoys them the most is when people treat them special. In a sense, it's like okay, it's very interesting. So I had one example of a client, and this person, he was working in a central kitchen, right? He was partially blind because of some lifestyle. I can't remember what it was. I think it's diabetes. Yes. And then he lost hope in life, didn't want to come out of the house for 1 2 years. And so when I finally found him a job and blah blah blah, it took him a while, but he was quite happy to be back in this central kitchen where he thought that people supported him. But he told me after a while that he didn't want to work, and I said, why? Say, because they are talking about me behind, no, not even behind my back, like in front of me, and I can hear them. And they will use terms that he's very, very uncomfortable with. Like they will call him, instead of a colleague, they will use words like that client. It is very strange because if it comes from you and me, yes, they are our clients because we're helping them from the perspective as a professional, right?
Yeah,
But when I place you in a workplace, you are a colleague to somebody else.
of
But
course.
why is that colleague still calling you something else?
Yeah.
And they were doing this because the other people that they were working with were people with intellectual disability, and most of them don't understand what you are saying. I'm not saying all, but some of them with the more moderate forms of intellectual disability, whatever terms you use to refer to them, they will not realize that you
Yeah.
are talking about
Reina, do you
them, right?
think that, sorry to interrupt you there, but
Sure, no
do you
problem.
think that there needs to be an understanding about words, or do you think just the intention is something that they can already sense? You know what I mean? Like a plant, right? Like the plant may not understand the words, but they understand the intention, the energy, and then they grow according to that energy
Yeah,
exchange, right? So
yes.
do you know if they feel anything just because they don't understand the words, but do you think they can feel the intent?
Yes, definitely. Actually, that's a good point that you raised because we now in this sector we have stopped using the word high functioning, low functioning. We used to use these words to describe, like in a sense, how capable you are or how significant your disability is. And then we realized that whenever we use the word low functioning, right? The person, the child knows that you are saying something negative because of the word low. And then somebody else whom they know that is the prefect of the class of the special school class is always being used, always referred to as high functioning, right? And sometimes when we have like case conferences with the family and the child in it, we are using those words too. We go like, oh, because your child is like low functioning. It's such a terrible word, honestly, right? And they know, right? Because low and high, who doesn't understand low and high? Most of us do. So we
Yeah.
kind of like flipped it around, and now we call it low support. So if
Mm.
you're a high functioning person, you need low support, and if you're
Mm.
a low functioning person, you need high support. And
Right. So
somehow,
basically talking about what is needed rather than labeling the person. Is that correct? You're just talking about
exactly,
what is needed.
yes, exactly, yeah,
Right. Fantastic. Yeah.
yeah. And
So
yes, they understand the words. They understand when we say certain things. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So what you're trying to say is that number one, don't treat them as special, treat them as another human being.
Okay, so that's the thing, right? And I always say this to whoever, like let's say my client who's very affected by what people are saying about him. So I'll give it two sides to the coin. So on one side is that yes, people are using certain terms that make you very uncomfortable. Now, why are they saying it? Is it because it is true that they are giving you special accommodations to the job or higher level of customizations to the job that they would otherwise have not given it to anybody else? So this is
Mm.
what I always tell it to tell to my clients who can understand this, right? To say that yes, it's not a very
Yeah.
nice term to use, yes, but do you
Mm.
know that they are making special accommodations for you? And
Mm.
and so let me ask you this: would you rather not receive those accommodations and then be called something else,
Right.
or do you recognize that you do need these accommodations at this stage? And then they realize that, oh yeah, that that is why they're calling me that, but just have a matured conversation with that person and just say, hey, sorry, I know you are doing these things for me and I appreciate it, but can you just not use these words in front of me? Just say it as it is, right?
Right. It sounds
um
like a typical employment kind of a contract, right? Like where you need to, figure out a way to deal with somebody when you don't like what they're saying, and then you also need to
yeah,
negotiate a better way that you like to be
yes,
supported. And
exactly.
so those negotiation skills or communication skills are also quite important. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so that
Hmm.
would you be able to share a little bit about the research that you've done with regards to psychological well-being and the onset of disabilities?
Right. This was a study that I did very, very long ago, like in the year that I actually worked with the Association of the Visually Handicapped. So I actually interviewed 35 people or so about thereabouts, with almost equal proportion of four types of client profile. Okay. The first type is born total blind, born partial blind, adult total blind, and
Mm,
adult partial blind. All right.
mm,
So there are four subsets. And it was a qualitative study. So I did a survey asking them, like rating their feelings, and as well as from observations about how they are, how they talk, how they behave, and the certain decisions that they make in their life. It
Okay.
was interesting, right? So if I were to ask you, which group out of these four subsets do you think would have the most positive outlook? Which one do you think?
I'm not sure.
So let's say between someone that's totally blind and partially blind, who do you think would have a more positive outlook?
Maybe the one totally blind?
Really?
I don't know.
Interesting that you're right. Okay, so the hypothesis is that if you can see more, you can see partially, you should be happier than someone who cannot see at all, right?
Right.
That's
Of
the
course. Yeah.
you would think that that's the thing.
Yeah.
And you would also assume that someone who was born that way would be able to accept things better as compared to someone who got it halfway in their life. Okay, so I was testing my hypothesis. But interestingly, the group that came out to have the most positive outlook in life was the group that was born totally blind.
Mm.
Born totally blind. The
Okay.
second group, yeah, that was the most positive was the adulthood total blind.
Mm.
Yes. And then the third group was the born partial blind. And the group that did the worst in terms of positive outlook was the adulthood partial blind, right? Yeah, so it was very interesting. Like, so when I asked those that became totally blind in adulthood, why are you more positive as compared to someone that's partially blind in adulthood? The
Mm.
responses you get is very interesting, right?
Mm.
Basically, those that are partially blind, and by the way, when I say partially, it's like um 200 degrees without spectacles. 200
Sorry.
degrees.
What was it?
200. So partially blind can be
Yeah.
you still can see quite a lot of things. Like you're just basically like 200 degrees in terms of not wearing spectacles.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. I was just wondering what is mine. I can't remember what mine is, but
Yours is you wearing
like
contact lens, right? Are
I
you?
do. Yeah.
Yeah. But once you take out a contact lens, is it very blur?
Yeah, I think I can't see, like maybe mine's like, oh my God, I really can't remember. Okay, so anyway, very blind lah, very blind, because I'm also quite blind.
Okay, right. Yeah, but at least yours can be corrected. But these people, they
Yes.
can't. It cannot be corrected, right?
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
So it was interesting that the total blind one says that what to do. I cannot just wallow in my sadness. I need to do something about my situation. So I have to
Mm.
do it. And then they somehow overcome it. Interestingly, they are the ones that learn computer programs meant for the blind, which is called Window Eyes. They
Nice.
start writing their book, they start writing their blog, they start to do all these motivational speaking or whatever. But those that
Mm.
are partially blind, they don't know what to do. You see, and that's the problem. The problem is they don't know what they should do because they think that I'm not going to spend my time writing a book. I think I will still try to look for a job. And they can't find a job where they can do things like before, right? And that's why they just go deeper and deeper into a depressive state. And it's very hard for them to come out of it.
This is super interesting. So it's better to
Yeah,
have a full-on disability than a partial disability, and it's better to have it from birth than later on in life. Is
that
that what you're
later on in
saying?
life. Well, just based on this group, that was the
Yeah,
conclusion. Yeah,
yeah,
but I can't say for all, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Wow. And um, why is
Yeah.
it that why is it that partial blind? Okay, wait. The ones who did who fared the best were the ones who were totally blind from birth, right?
But
Yeah,
yes,
and then it was the total blind from adulthood. Is that correct?
adulthood. That's right.
So why is partial blindness so bad then? That it's even worse than total blindness in adulthood.
So why is partial? So that's the part that I also do. Okay, my guess is this: when I talk to those who are partially blind from birth, is that they feel that they are in between people who are totally able-bodied and
Mm.
people who are not. You see, the
Mm.
ones that who are totally blind from a young age, they do not know what the world is like. They really, I mean, whatever they are born with, they're born with that from day one. They cannot see from day one, and it's okay. They just adapt. They are like fine with it because they don't really know what a totally able-bodied person looks like. To them, it's the same. I'm hearing your voice. I just can't see your face, but so what? I don't need to see your face.
Yeah.
It's fine. But
Rena,
someone
I'm
who's,
just wondering,
yeah,
is it because the world is so horrible that it's just much better to be blind? And that
maybe.
even if it's later on in life, the less of the world you see, the better for you. You get to
I
have, you
I don't
know,
know.
I don't
Yeah,
know. That's interesting because the blind
yeah.
actually can see as well, right? Because there is something called the pineal gland, which allows
Mm.
you to have visions. I'm not sure what kind of visions they would have because
Here,
they've never
right?
had
Mm.
something to parallel in the outside world. But there is something that creates some kind of visions for them as well. Super interesting. My God, I've not been so intrigued. I'm like sitting in front of my laptop now. So many
Uh-huh.
things I want to know. And I think
Yeah.
that's where, I think this is where education can and should begin for human beings, right? Like
Mm.
just knowing who people are, how they lead their lives with disabilities is something that we should all do more of. I mean, I feel every time I meet people like you on this show, I just feel more and more inadequate. Like there's just so many things that I'm not doing or I'm not exposed to, and
Mm.
that we could do so much better in. Like we could do so much better in education. Yeah,
I, I think the thing is that in Singapore, and I'm not sure whether in Malaysia as well, it's still a segregated education system.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do
So
you
the
mean by that?
segregation means you have children with disabilities who will attend special schools for the rest of their lives. Their pathways are very different from children who attend regular schools.
Hmm.
Okay. Like in a lot of Scandinavian countries, even in the US, we have students with quite significant disabilities, but who are thrown into the mainstream environment from the start.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's a very different approach.
Okay, so
And
Reina, if you
mm,
were the prime minister of a country, say for example, not Singapore, because we don't want
yeah,
to get you into trouble. If you were the prime minister of a country and
yes,
um, or you were a policymaker, what are three things that you would do that would definitely immediately be able to end this stigma? What are the three smartest things to do to completely eradicate stigma in this format, but also maybe I guess stigma in any format? What are three
yeah.
things that research suggests that ends
I think
stigma?
right. I think it's really just one thing. I don't even think I need three things. I think it's just one, right? Which is that we need to have more children who are different to be with children who are in the mainstream. I think it starts with that. And I don't mean primary school. That's too late. I mean like from childcare. Yes,
Right.
right? And Singapore, we tried. We have like something like a few childcares who are like that, means non-segregation. But it has been very challenging because this number one, the staffing model is not built for success for that.
Mm.
Okay, you need a different staffing model for this sort of environment to work. Number two, the teachers themselves are not trained. And why are they not trained? Because they themselves did not grow up with other people with disabilities in their life. They are seeing this for the first time. So it's a vicious cycle. But we have to end it somewhere. There was this interesting interview of this lady in Australia showing us how non-segregation works in their childcare in Australia. And it's very interesting. Somebody asked this question, someone from Singapore, right? Asked this question on a study tour saying that, how did you guys get your teachers to accept these kids who are so challenging and then still have to teach the other mainstream stuff and academic stuff? And then the Australian lady looked at her with a very strange look and she said, what are you talking about? If not, what other models are there? So to her, she doesn't know
Wow.
any other
Any
model
different?
except this. Yeah. So she's like, I grew up this way. Of course, we must have all of them with us. And what are you talking about? I mean, if it just means 5 minutes of delay in starting the class, then it's just that. They're very chill about such things, right?
Right.
But in Singapore, we're not. We are like, oh, curriculum hours is like 40 hours per week. You have to do it. You have to achieve this, you have to achieve that. So I don't know. Oh yeah, it's not supposed to be Singapore, right? It's supposed to be another country,
No,
right?
no, yeah, any other.
Yeah, but I think it just starts from there, honestly.
Mm,
Mm.
mm. And sorry to ask this one last question, maybe.
Sure, no problem.
Um, do you do you think children are kind to other children of disabilities?
That's a great question. Um, I want to share with you my personal experience.
Mm,
So I have two kids, right? And my older child is 7 years old this year. And last year, when she was still in childcare, I actually got one of so I work in Rainbow Center, which is a school for children with multiple disabilities. And so we actually got one of our ex-student from Rainbow who said that her dream is to be a storyteller, right?
okay.
And if I could share a picture with you, she is actually someone with very severe cerebral palsy. She is in a wheelchair 24/7. Her neck needs a support, and her hands are frozen in this direction, this way, and her neck is also frozen pretty much most of the time. So she's actually someone with very, very significant disability, and you may not really understand what she's saying because her speech is not very clear. Okay, so that's the level of disability that she has. And I said, you know what? Since your dream is to be a storyteller, you come to my kids' childcare and you go and do a storytelling because you have to start somewhere, right? And this was not the first time. We already like connected her with other childcares and all that. And
Right. Okay.
at first she was nervous, but then after a while she got used to it. And it was very interesting because I told the teachers like you need to prepare the kids. Please make sure that the kids are not going to say something insensitive and mean, like whatever, right? Like why you look like that or something like that. So the teacher was like, okay, asking me how should I introduce the student. She's called Nikki the storyteller. So I just said, well, you can show them a picture. You can tell them that she has special needs, and you can just tell them as it is that she has this condition, but her dream is to do this. And the day when I brought Nikki to the center, I was very nervous, right? That they will say something rude. But I was so surprised because the moment they saw her coming into the center, the kids went wild and they were like, Nikki, you're here. And they started cheering and clapping for her like she was some celebrity. Yeah, I was so shocked. I was like, okay, fine. It's like good start, good start. And then when the storytelling,
Also,
yeah,
yeah.
when the storytelling started, she's not clear in her speech, right? Like I said,
Mm,
and sometimes she drools as well.
mm,
And I thought that they're going to say something really insensitive at that point, but no, they were like just listening to her, and they even asked her and answered to her questions. And by the way, she's a great storyteller. Like she's 100 times better than me. Like I won't rush through it, but she
mm,
knows the art of storytelling. Like she knows how to stop, ask questions, engage with the kids, and they didn't say anything about not understanding her. And
mm,
it was just a beautiful day. And then when I asked the other parents after that, and they were like saying, thank you, Reina, for arranging this. Like, we didn't know that, our kids can learn something so important. And we found out that one of the student, that means one of the childcare that student in that class, the sister is of a similar
okay.
profile. Yes.
Right.
Um, Can you imagine how she must have felt that it's a start, for her to realize
Mm,
that there is acceptance in this
yes.
society, yes, and
Yes.
that I do not need to be embarrassed about my sibling. Yeah, and
Mm,
it starts from there, you see. So you are right to say that kids who are not exposed from young, they will be mean and they will say the wrong thing, so called. But if you expose them from young and you prep them and you get the person with disability to showcase their talent and their strength, I think they will be okay. It will be great. It
Yeah,
will be a great
and I guess
interaction.
it's not okay. I guess it's even a more amazing than okay, because you're going to be learning how to be a lot more empathetic. You're going to be learning how to support each other. You're going to be learning manners. You're going to be learning social etiquette. You're going to be learning interesting facts that you didn't hear
Yeah.
otherwise. Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's extremely powerful. The idea of exposure and connection. Once you're exposed to
Yes.
something and you feel that you have a connection, it's forever. It's forever.
Yes.
So I
Correct.
mean, I'm gonna remember Nikki for a very long time. That's for sure.
She's
Uh,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, and I think I've also had a very similar encounter with someone who has cerebral palsy, and I just, you know, I don't know. I just wish I knew a lot more things when I was younger or exposed to a lot more, because the girl that I knew who has cerebral palsy is
Mm.
a genius. She's like literally a genius. She's super smart and funny and everything.
Yeah.
I was just like, what is this really a disability? Like, hang on here. Like, this is not a disability at all. This is like unfair because you're called disabled, but you're like supernatural, you know?
Yes.
Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, so kudos to you, Reina, going from being some of the, like a top girl in CEDAR. You were in
No, I
CEDAR, right?
wasn't in Sila. No, no, I was
SADC.
in.
You were in
Yeah.
SADC, right? Yeah. So like one of the top girls, I know my sister always say, "Oh my God, Reina is like always such a good student and everything." And
Oh, oh
yeah,
no, no.
were you a prefect as well?
No, your sister was the
My
counselor.
sister was, yeah. Well,
I was.
she
She's
was
a role model too.
she is. She's my
Yeah,
role
yeah.
model for sure.
She's.
I'm so glad that you broke boundaries and you decided to do something that you love, and that you're spending the rest of your life fighting for the rights of those who definitely need it.
Yeah.
Is there an advice that or something that you heard someone of persons of disability who has said that has really struck you forever? So is there something that they've told you,
Mm.
or something that, yeah, that you'd like to share with us as a conclusion to this?
Yeah, it's actually so this is more like a very sad moment for me when it happened. So this was back in the time when I was trying to set up the social enterprise and provide jobs, right, for those people. And I had this boy, he had 40% vision, and he has severe intellectual disability at the same time. Okay, and so I took him under my wing, and he's this lovely boy. But after a while, it just got so tired for me because he just couldn't learn a lot of things because he couldn't see, and as well as his intellectual disability was very severe as well.
Mm,
And I spent a good 2 weeks trying to teach him how to tie up a plastic bag full of rubbish, and he couldn't do it because his hands were also a little bit frozen. And
mm,
when I'm telling him stuff, he's just looking elsewhere, right? And it
mm,
was raining one day, and the rubbish was dropping all over the floor, and he just didn't know how to tie it, even didn't think that there was a need to tie it. He just stood there, and I lost it. I really lost it. Okay, and I said, let's just say that his name is Sam. I said, Sam, what is it? Am I such a bad teacher that you just don't know how to tie the plastic bag after teaching you for like more than 2 weeks? Like seriously, what is wrong with me or you? Why am I even doing this standing in the rain? And then I started to cry. I really it was just a very bad moment for me. And then he had no reaction, but suddenly he said, I'm sorry. And that was the first time he actually expressed himself because he's mostly nonverbal. He said, I'm sorry. And then that's where I realized that, oh my goodness, like I did such a terrible thing, to say that about him. And after that, when I calm myself down, I say, okay, you don't have to say sorry. I'm sorry for doing this and getting angry with you. But how? Well, do you want to work here? And he said, yes, happy. He said that. So what was he trying to say really? I asked myself, what is this person trying to say? He has issues with sensory output, if you think
mm,
about it. He can't express himself as well.
mm,
Input wise, he's also not very good in receiving the info. But at
Mm,
that moment, when he knew that I was going through a rough patch, I was
mm,
upset with him. Rubbish was falling all over the place. The rain was on us, and he said, "I'm sorry." And actually, I feel like he shouldn't have apologized, because why should he apologize for his disability? I took him in knowing exactly what he's able to do or what, right? It was just me. So it was that moment where I think that we need to give opportunities for
mm,
persons with disabilities to express themselves, rather
mm.
than we always trying to stuff information into them. Yeah.
Uh,
I still think about that moment all the time. Like, I really felt so bad of, yeah, it was just the lowest point in my life.
Okay, I mean, look at you, you're neither a parent nor someone who needs to be doing this, but you decided to. And of course, it's frustrating. Of course,
Very
it's frustrating when you're trying so hard. But
mm,
also, I mean, I can only begin to imagine the frustration of the other person who can't match up to it, right? And their own internal frustrations of this must be super easy. What I think is
yeah,
amazing is that you say that he's a nonverbal, so someone who doesn't really speak. And um, what is awesome is that with enough frustration, something came out of it,
yeah.
right?
I actually, I don't think he was frustrated with me. Honestly speaking, he was calm as a lake. It was me. I was the one that was just like going off, and he was very calm. And I think when he said sorry, what he really meant was that he could sense my how upset I was.
Mm,
Yeah, and I didn't think that he was able to sense that from me, because
right.
most of the time he's very expressionless, and he's really non-verbal. He really doesn't say much. And even when he says anything, usually my questions to him are yes, no questions. And and he will say yes or no, but he doesn't really know what he's saying it for, because his intellectual disability is really quite severe, like I said, right? So but at that moment when he said I'm sorry, it's like it was the first time he said that. And I think it's the first time that he made a connection and realized that I was upset because of him,
Mm,
right? And after that, when I said, do you still want to work here, he said yes, happy.
mm.
Yeah, he never said that before. Yeah, and when I
Wow.
told his mom was very surprised. But of course, the mom was like scolding him and saying, "Why you still don't know how to tie a bag after like 2 weeks?" But she said it's expected, because she's been teaching him all sorts of things for like 18 years, and he just can't get it right, right? So yeah, it's
Yeah, that sounds like me and statistics. That sounds like me and statistics, and sounds like me with a lot of other things. And so I think that comes to your point, Reina, that I think what you shared when we were first connecting was so powerful. You were sharing that there were a lot of people of disabilities that we don't know about, right? So did you
yes,
want to share a little bit about that as well? I know we are like time's up a little, but I
yeah.
know that you had a very powerful question uh, to leave the audience with as well. So, what was your
Mm.
question?
Question, was it a question, or more like I mean, something that we can all ask ourselves, like, surely
Yeah.
there is, oh, all right, okay, there is something that all of us are very bad at, right? And when we say very bad at, we are always taking a average standard of the general population.
Mm.
Okay. Now, if I were to put you in a room of Mensa members,
Oh,
people, IQ
oh,
super,
big deal.
right?
Yeah.
And then
Big
there
deal.
are, yeah, big field. They'll be talking about, like, physics, astroscience, quantum physics, and whatever. And to them, it's like a normal conversation that you and I will have about other things. And they look at you and they go like, how come you don't understand what we're talking about? Like, are you intellectually disabled? Are you
Yes.
like, so, like, why are you so slow? And
Mm.
and that's how you will feel really bad if 98% of the population is so smart and you are not that smart,
Yeah.
but you think you're quite okay, but you're like, oh, actually, I'm not okay. And that's exactly how persons with disabilities feel, because to you are talking about something that's so easy, like tying a bag, like my plastic bag, right? But to
Mm.
them, it's as hard as me asking you to understand quantum physics. It's all relative, you
Well,
see.
well, oh my God, that is such an amazing pun to put in when you're talking about physics. It's all relative.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize it.
It's very smart joke, Reina.
It
Well,
was
good job.
an
I
accident.
totally agree, and I feel that. I mean, although it may be inappropriate for me to say that I have a lot of disabilities, but I sure as hell have a lot of weird stuff that is just impossible for me to learn.
Mhm.
Or it takes a very long time. So I empathize with that greatly. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing this for us and with
Thank
us.
you. Yeah,
It's
thank
very
you.
educational for me, at least. And it's just so amazing to see that you're doing such great work as well. We'll connect when life brings us together again in
Yes,
Singapore.
yes, we should.
All
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Take
And
care.
yeah, take
Yes.
care. Everybody stay safe.
And God bless. Okay. Say hello
Yeah.
to everybody at home as well.
Yes, I will. And to your family as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. See you, Reina.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.